What's going on, family? Welcome to another installment of TSC Unleashed. As we talk about all the latest NBA playoffs coming right at you, man. And we talked about a few things today. What's happening what's happening on the scene? And Portland looked good in game one, not so much in game two as LeBron and AD got even on them. So I mean, we'll talk about that and we'll break down the rest of the NBA playoffs. Also, we'll talk about a little NFL news. Is Yannick Ngakwe finally moving? There's some rumors circulating around the Jaguars and perhaps the Raiders. We'll talk about that as well on today's episode of TSC Unleashed. So I'm Big Q chiming in with this installment. I appreciate the family for joining us on TSC Unleashed. Good to see Brian Pearson and Donovan Grayson. What up to the family members as they chiming in as more come in. So please hit the like button and support TSC Unleashed stream by hitting the like button, the notification bell, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and of course share the links on your social media. Once again, we're going to bring in our key and top contributor on TSC Unleashed, Uncle Mozzi chiming in. How you doing, Uncle Mozzi?
What's going on? How y'all doing today, fam?
Bro, everybody's fine, bro. We're looking at some real good basketball. Last night was some of a blowout. As Anthony Davis and them were able to kind of steer the ship. You know, they basically they blew Portland out of the water. It was over with really early. To be quite honest with you, we'll cover that matchup today and several other games from yesterday, and then previews today's matchups. Of course, Toronto is leading Brooklyn right now, 57-42. We knew that would be a sweep fest right there. Then, of course, later on, Denver and Utah, Boston, Philly, and then, of course, the Clippers and Dallas tonight. So a lot of really good action, and we'll start off by getting into the Lakers matchup, the Lakers and Portland matchup. Uncle Mozzie, this was blowout of epic proportion. This one, as LeBron James, man, kind of really didn't score a lot. They only had 10 points in this matchup, but he facilitated the hell out of this game. Anthony Davis took off, blew him out of the water. 31 points from AD in 29 minutes. He had 11 rebounds in the game, had a block thrown in there, and they played more rounded. They were better defensively, really good defensively. And like I said, they just situated, passed around. LeBron, 10 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds. Not much in the game. He was 0 for 3 from downtown, 4-11 from the field, but that wasn't really his role to score. He knew that he get other guys involved that they could win the game. McGee had 10 points as well in 13 minutes of action, 16 from KCP, which was he was missing in the first matchup. He came up with 16 points. He was red hot. 5 of 8 from the field, 4 of 6 from downtown in the matchup in 22 minutes. So KCP really showed up in the matchup. And then off the bench scoring from guys like J.R. Smith in 22 minutes. J.R. chunked in 11 points as well as they moved past him. Portland, on the other hand, not to say too much about it, Dame Lillard, a pedestrian, 18 points in 30 minutes. You can't have that lower production. McCollum, really terrible, 13 points in the matchup. He was awful, 6 of 16 from the field, 1 of 5 from downtown. He couldn't hit free throws either, 0 of 2 there, so he had a really struggling game. Lillard's number, 6 of 14 from the field, 1 of 7 from downtown. And those guys combined for 2 of 12 from downtown. We talking about the super backcourt tandem of Lillard and McCollum. 2 of 12 from downtown. That's astounding. They cannot do that if they want to win in this series. And the only other person that had double figures to help them was Simmons off the bench with 11. Nobody else were in double figures, including Nurkic. Carmelo Anthony was laughable in this game, 27 points, 1 of 6 from the field, or 1 from downtown, 2 points. You cannot do that, Carmelo, and it just didn't come together for them. They struggled, and a lot of that was due from the Lakers' defense upon these guys. Mozzie, you seen this game, man. A lot of people believe this is the best game of the playoff series. What was your thought on game 2 and how the Lakers took control of this one?
I mean, we talked about this. I don't know. We've been talking about this for a while now, and I mean, we just saw what it was. We saw and understood that you know Portland is a good team, but I mean, the Lakers are just a much better franchise, and it's just like a. You ever had those 5-hour energy drinks, or you ever had a cup of coffee and you were feeling really really good till about 2 or 3 o'clock? Yesterday was about 3:30 for the Portland Trailblazers. They have been riding this emotional high for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. It's only so long that you can do that before you get bumped back down to reality. Now, I think the biggest issue moving forward is not necessarily what can we do to make adjustments, what can we do for this, what can we do for that. They just got to achieve balance because I mean, there's only one side of the ball for Portland anyway, so it's kind of tough to game plan, or it's kind of tough to come up with a workaround when your main workaround is I put the ball in the basket more times than you. That's it. We don't believe in defense. We don't have these strategies, these wild traps, and we don't have all of that. We don't have these crazy rotations. We just don't. Dame jacks up threes. McCullough jacks up threes. Carmelo jacks up threes sometimes to back you down. Garrett Jr. jacks up threes, and Hassan Whiteside, he gets all the trash points, all the garbage points from the missed rain of threes, and every now and then some mid range jumpers, maybe 8 to 12 feet. Other than that, that's Portland's game. We're not gonna play any defense. We're just gonna chunk it up and hope that it goes through the basket for us more times than it does for you. So they can't really change anything. They just got to kind of shoot their way out of it. I'm sorry, shoot their way back into it, the same way they shot their way out of it, out of it yesterday. It was so bad, man. Look, fourth quarter, everybody took a break. Everybody laid down. Everybody took a break, and I really don't know what Portland was thinking about. Dame, as we saw, he got injured with a dislocated finger.
Right.
I mean, at that point in the game, man, you got him in there just out of spite or maybe uh, I don't know, but I mean, my best player, arguably on the floor, the best player that's been in the bubble, which is the opinion of many people um, that has been watching D. Lil play since the NBA restart. So I would have not even had him out there down 30 points. That was just asinine for him to even do that. And it resulted in the injury. And this is what I tell people all the time. People that have never played sports or maybe don't understand sports too well, they always push and try to buck and get, oh man, why didn't I leave him in for 48 minutes? Why didn't I leave, but this is why. You leave him in for what? You can't win the game. It's almost an impossibility. Let's let some of these other guys that haven't seen daylight in, I don't know, 6 months. Let's let them get on the floor and get some playing time. And it wasn't until after your star player gets hurt that you decide to do this and basically unload your bench or dump them out and get them some playing time. Same thing with the Lakers. And the last I say quarter and a half was some of the most awful basketball I've ever seen in my life. A bunch of reject. What I will say though, and I didn't realize the definitive advantage the Lakers had, but when I looked at the bench for in the fourth quarter, maybe the last 5 6 minutes, the rotation they had with J.R. Smith and Dwight Howard, and I said, you know what? This bench five could actually be a starting five in the East. I think the Lakers bench could probably beat the Wizards starting five if they had to. They'd probably be a really weak East team, but still a culpable NBA team nonetheless. So the Lakers have a definitive advantage, and it was on full display last night. And if they play like they did last night, and LeBron only had to have an offensive output of 10 points, man, it's going to be really tough to beat those people, man.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Because I mean, 10 points from LeBron, and they beat him 111-88. That's amazing. And he didn't even have to do anything. He was pretty much fresh in his game. 27 minutes, and he was just more of a distributor and facilitated things, stood at the point forward position, and moved the ball around. And their defense, Portland's defense, was lackadaisical. They didn't attack, and you really want to be able to attack LeBron as soon as he brings the ball across the half court line. Make it difficult. Make him have to turn. Make him have to distribute the ball with his back turned. Make it hard. Don't let him just be able to walk the ball up the court and able to just see everything at face value. Make it a little difficult for him. They did not, and they paid for it. Now, if you look at the rest of the bench, guys that usually contribute, like you talked about, Gary Trent Jr., a.k.a. Garrett Jr., 8 points in the matchup in 21 minutes. He was 3 of 7 shooting. Didn't do too well. 2 of 4 from downtown for 50%. He has to continue to step up his production to help out off the bench, as well as Simmons and the rest of these guys. They have to help out as well. But it is absolutely, without a certainty, that Dame Lillard and McCullough cannot have this type of game. They cannot play this kind of way. You basically combine for what was it? What 21 points? What was not, I mean,
21,
not
25.
18, 13, 18 points for Lillard, and then 13 for him,
So
31
it's
points from both.
31.
They're
31.
31 between them, but they were both. If you combine the 3 pointers, They were 2 of 12 from downtown, and that's usually their game. They get the 3 points going, and everybody feeds off that energy. Didn't happen. And Carmelo Anthony was absolute laughable in this game. 2 points in this matchup. He has to be able to do better than 2 points in this matchup. Even though,
But what are we really looking for out of Carmelo, though? I didn't think
I'm
we were looking
well, I
for.
mean, he can't. Obviously, we can't have just 2 points though. You can't have just 2 point affair. You got Carmelo has to be able to be north of 15 points a game. I mean, come on now. I mean, if he put up 15 points a game, this game is definitely they're back in the game if he scores that. But 2 points for Carmelo Anthony, absolutely not. Absolutely
But
not.
I mean, he's been riding a high for so long. I mean, going into the bubble, they calling him the skinny mellow, super saiyan mellow. I mean, all this other foolishness. So I mean, it's only so long that they could pretend. I mean, you understand? Kind of understand what I'm saying? Eventually, this had to happen, right?
Yeah, they
I
were
mean,
gonna.
anybody
That's true.
yeah, anybody that thought different uh, was speaking probably more or less from a fandom perspective, not from a realistic perspective. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I'm still saying Carmelo Anthony will go down when it's all said and done as a really talented player. He'll be one of those top players that they'll talk about. The fact that his ability to score has not left him. He's in the best shape probably since what I've seen him in his early on in his when he came out of Syracuse. He looks really good. His defense is a lot better, but 2 points is that's he'll tell you himself that's pathetic. That's poor. He has to score north of 15 points a game, and I don't care if anything dealing with Lillard or McCollum. If those guys struggle, he still must bring his game. He can't just be a guy that just sit up there and say, "Well, I just scored 2 points on 1 of 6 shooting from the field. I was 0-1 from downtown, 2 points in the game and 1 assist." I mean, that was his statistics in 27 minutes of action. So very poor outing by those guys. They get plastered, destroyed, eviscerated by the Lakers 111 to 88, and it stirs up a different look in Game 3, which I'll be interested to see what goes on. All right, Uncle Mozzie, let's move on to the next matchup. We go from superstar to another superstar in Milwaukee's Giannis. So Giannis and the Orlando Magic. That was one of these series that have to resync as well. And we talked about that yesterday when I say though they were embarrassed. They got slapped in the face by the Orlando Magic in game one. They were gonna resync, come back out and do something. Coach Bud is too good of a coach for him to let his team have another outing that poorly against the Magic, who are basically playing at home for this entire NBA restart. But you look at what Giannis did in this with 28 points and 20 rebounds. That's insane. 28 points, 20 rebounds, 5 assists. He did have 7 turnovers in 32 minutes. He was poor. He struggled from shooting the three, but it didn't matter. His production was huge in this one. Lopez, who had 5 points in the first matchup, contributed 20 points in this matchup as well. Bledsoe still struggling a bit, 6 of 12 from the field, all 3 from downtown. He had 13 points and 7 assists in the matchup. Wes Matthews struggled, 7 points in the game. Middleton continued to struggle, and he was 1 of 8. And they still were able to win, but Middleton struggled. 1 of 8 from the field, 0 of 4 from downtown. Just a terrible game. 2 points. He had a Carmelo-ish game. And you look at it, they did just enough. Off the bench, Pat Connaughton, he had 15, 11 from Davencio, and they took it to the Magic, who really, their only really big player was Vujasev, who finished with 13 and 10 on the night in 35 minutes. Markel Fultz couldn't do too much. 11 points in the matchup, 12 from Fournier. Evan Fournier has to really step up as well. DJ Augustin off the bench with 10. Ross had 12 from a spectacular game. First game that helped spore them to the win. Settled back down to earth. 111-96 Bucks over the Magic. What's your take?
I mean, this is when redacting or retracting a correction of a curve. I mean, we all knew, just like with the Lakers in Portland. I think it stood out a lot more with the Orlando Magic over Portland because there's plenty of people that really thought and probably still think Portland has a chance and opportunity to win that series. I don't think anybody felt that way about Orlando. I think that they, I don't, I think they called. I think Orlando did a a good job exploiting the whole Giannis headbutting situation and all from the game before that. And I think that Milwaukee kind of brought that kind of energy into the game one. And Orlando was thinking Philippe's while they were thinking Wingstop. And I mean, that's what happens when you're not paying attention. These are NBA players. There's not much separating the worst player in the league from the best player in the league. When you think about it and put it in perspective, there's not a whole lot separating the two. Uh, I tell you, when I used to have conversations about basketball. This is back when Luke Longley played for the Lakers, and a guy said, "Man, I don't know why they put this bum in Luke Longley this, Luke Longley that." I tell you, boy, Luke Longley, I don't even know how he made it to the NBA. I said, "Yeah, but yet I could take Luke Longley and bring him to any park that you want me to bring him to, and you can assemble the best squad of people that you want to assemble that you've seen in person and you feel can play basketball. And I guarantee you Luke Long will hang 80 on him because he's an NBA player. So there's not much difference between the two, which is why these superstars sometimes you'll see a game where it's just unorthodox or it just doesn't seem right. You don't understand how the other team won. Well, you don't understand it. I understand it. They play the NBA team. Just because your guy might have 2 or 3 more assists, maybe 10 extra points per game, that means a lot in the grand scheme of a game when you lose by 8 or 9. If your guy is able to put up 10 more points than my guy, so there's not a whole lot separating these players to begin with, and that's the same across the board in any sport. A bench player and greatness is only separated by really marginal things. More than likely, work ethic and attitude. Not so much talent, because to make it on this level, to be one of the top 500 people on the planet to play in the league, you gotta be pretty good at what you do.
Yeah, this is yeah, the Milwaukee Bucks are obviously they go as far as Giannis is going to take them. I mean, 28 points, 20 rebounds in the game is phenomenal. And their second best player is Chris Middleton, who gave him only 2 points, and they still won as big as they did. So I mean, 111 to 96. We knew, like you said, the Magic. They all of them just have to play above and beyond themselves to beat this team. This just won't happen. And I said it in the preview. I said once the Bucks are they're peeved, and Coach Bud will get them together, and then don't be surprised if they run all 4 straight and just collapse the Magic back off into the lottery where they belong. So let's move on to the next game, from another star to another superstar to another superstar. This time it's the bearded one, James Harden, and his Houston Rockets club, who James Harden kind of sticking a little revenge to that OKC Thunder team in this one. And it's fun to watch him. Also, Russell Westbrook, who hasn't played and contributed, but has been the main cheerleader off the bench, cheerleading his team to victory. But I mean, to be honest with you, this was a really fun game to watch, in my opinion. Houston took it again. They're up 2 games to nothing as they took down the Thunder 111 to 98 in this affair. And Harden finished the game. He had 21 points. He struggled a little bit, 5 of 16 from the field. He was 2 of 11 from downtown, but hit all his free throws, 9 of 9. But he contributed 21 points and 9 assists in the matchup. But he got a lot of people got going to help them win this game, including guys like House Jr., who was able. These juniors are really showing up in the playoffs. By the way, 19 points and 9 rebounds for House Jr., as he did what he was supposed to do. 14 for PJ Tucker, who struggled in 30 minutes. 15 from Gordon. We wanted to see what Gordon was going to do. He put in 15 points despite the fact that he was 0 of 10 from downtown in his matchup. And, of course, several guys off the bench contributed in double figures, including Green, who stunk the last game. He was able to contribute 15 points, and Austin Rivers threw in 11. And then you look at what the Thunder did. Really not too much that you could talk about outside of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 31-point performance in 37 minutes. He did the best he can do. 17 from Gallinari and 14 from Chris Paul in the matchup, but there was nothing else. Schroeder off the bench had 13, but they just couldn't get enough done. And then if you look at the game, they were pretty much smashed in the fourth quarter. Houston put up 34 points in the fourth quarter and held them down to 20 points to kind of solidify the lead and kind of extend themselves out in that fourth quarter. That's when, in my opinion, the game was kind of taken away. They had that gap, and they kind of extended away and took the game over when they beat them by 14 in the fourth quarter. So 111 and 98. This is a Houston takes the series 2-0. A lot of people thought this would be more competitive with Billy Donovan and how they play defense, but it hadn't been the case. What's your thoughts on this one, Mozzie? Mozzie, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry about that. The technical difficulties on it. All right, so yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing when you look at it. Um, uh, They came in, they had a shot. OKC did come in, they had a shot to beat the Rockets. I think that this was a very evenly matched team. I think we discussed this yesterday. I do not believe they took full advantage of clipping the wings of the Rockets, if that makes sense, without having Westbrook in. With Westbrook, this is a totally different team. Without Westbrook, you're relying strictly on James Harden, and I think that OKC under the veteran leadership of Chris Paul, they should be ashamed of themselves. I don't think they're playing to their maximum potential. I think that the Rockets were a team that many had counted out. I think they were on the cusp of being just just wanting to be put out their misery, especially with no Westbrook. I didn't see it. I didn't like the small ball lineup going that they did in the season. I didn't and still don't believe that it'll work in the playoffs. Going forward with the championship, especially trying to get around the Lakers or the Clippers, who everybody seems to have eaten their Wheaties on both of those teams. Even if you throw Denver, which is my pick, in the mix, I mean they're just too big. Houston's really really small. I think OKC had a definitive advantage without Westbrook in the game. I think they could have made this a really really competitive series. I think it could have been super interesting. I think they just blew that, and now down 0-2. Oh man, I'm gonna just be honest. I don't see a scenario where they have enough inner confidence and wherewithal, and would probably be Chris Paul's last outing in last year. You better enjoy these last two games because you might not see him in a uniform again.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for, and I know Billy Donovan's a good coach. The idea is just to take it one series at a time when you go 0-2 like that. We don't know if Westbrook is going to play in the third game, but they've beaten them both games without Westbrook, and if he shows up, it could give them that point boost and that offensive boost. It'll be difficult, but Billy Donovan got to be at least look, man. Let's just get one and we'll deal with it. But it's going to be tough. Houston up 2 games and none on OKC. All right, going to the game that's going on right now. That's in the middle of the third. Actually, 3 minutes remaining in the third quarter. The Toronto Raptors are up by 14 on the Brooklyn Nets. 76-62 in this matchup. 26 points for Siakam. 26 for him and 6 rebounds, 5 assists in 28 minutes thus far. 16 points from Van Vliet, who continues to show up big in 28
Really?
minutes of action. 6-11 from the field is 4 of 8 from downtown as well. Playing really well. 6 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, complete game. 11 for Serge Ibaka off the bench as well. So, man, they're doing a good job. Lowry, 8 points in the matchup. They're beating them pretty handily right now. We expect this matchup, Toronto, just the defending champs, to just wipe away the Brooklyn Nets, and they're going to piecemeal them. They'll be up 3 games to none heading into the final matchup. Now, let's look into some of these previews, some of these contests going ahead, Mozzie. Looking at it, the 3 o'clock game, which is a little less than an hour, will feature the Denver Nuggets. This is game 3 between Denver and Utah series at what and what. We seen how game 2 ended. Both of these teams have showed what they can do, with Denver having to take it to overtime in game 1, and then the series kind of shifted back with Utah being able to take control in the second matchup. What do you see in game 3?
Well, I'm big pro Denver. Especially, I have them going all the way to the Western Conference Final. So there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Denver will come in this morning or this afternoon, and they'll handle business against Utah. Again, I love Mitchell, but I mean, he's not. He had a 57-point outing and a loss. What did he put up the other day? Like 37 or 41. It was another astronomical figure. I just simply don't think he could sustain in the 7 game series. I don't think they play well enough team ball. And I mean, it's going to come down to the production they're going to get out of Rudy Gobert and some of the other players that they have if they want to get around this Denver Nuggets team. Yes, they did beat them the other day. I think that was more Denver just kind of looking past Utah than actually Utah beating Denver. I think that what happened the other day was a gigantic, huge wake up call for the Denver Nuggets, and I think that they face their own playoff mortality, and I simply don't see them coming out flat footed as they did. I definitely don't see them allowing other people to beat them. Hey, if Donovan Mitchell wants to put up 100 points, that's fine as long as we have 101 at the end of the game.
Yeah, this is a really tough series between these two teams. Every time they play, it's a battle because Denver is loaded. Utah is playing with a lot of confidence, and it's both of these teams are incredibly well coached. So this will be a struggle. And I wouldn't be surprised this series goes 7 games. Okay, let's cover one. I forgot to throw in the Miami Heat matchup too. The Miami Heat from yesterday, they were able to beat the Indiana Pacers 109 to 100 to take the series, 2 games to nothing behind the production. 24 points from Robinson. He was pretty good in this one. 7 of 8 from the field, 7 of 8 from the 3-point line as well. He was perfect from the free throw line. 24 points in the matchup. 20 from Goran Dragic. He dished out 6 of 6 and assists in 32 minutes. 18 points for Jimmy Butler in 38 minutes of action. 5 of 13 from the field, 2 of 3 from downtown, 6 of 8 from the field. He played really well. And other player in double figures was, of course, Tyler Hero off the bench, who's been really massive for the team in his bench efforts. 15 points in 35 minutes. Miami took them apart once again, and their top people struggled. Victor Oladipo came in this one. He had 22 points in the matchup. 217 scores from Miles Turner and Brogdon once again. 14 from T.J. Warren. Holiday had 12. Nobody off the bench in double figures. They lose by 9. What's your thoughts on the Heat and Pacer matchup? I thought this would be a little bit closer than this.
I think we talked about that too. Their closeness is by record only, but veteran leadership, playoff toughness, playoff talent, basketball, we never seen out of Indiana. I don't even know why we even having this conversation. I thought that Indiana would actually be able to come in um, um, and play with these people. I mean, again, we've talked about Spoelstra, and for what it was worth, he is indeed the winningest coach of all time in Miami. We've got veteran leadership led by Jimmy Butler. So I mean, I just don't see a scenario at all in which Indiana could put up a fight against these people and be successful. I don't see it. Now, I'm not saying that it can't happen, and I'm not saying that Indiana can't steal a game or two. But in a 7 game series, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man. I would have to saying that this series was close because of the coaches. You talked about Eric Spoelstra in Indiana with Nate McMillan, 2 really good coaches, and you can see the separation as Spoelstra has pulled the team into a 2 game advantage over Indiana. So we'll see how it all ends. But this is really interesting, man, to see. I thought this series would be one of those 6 or 7 game series, but obviously we'll see how the third game is usually the tone setter for the rest of the series, whoever wins that third game. Okay, let's keep going. The
Do me a
next,
favor after this game, go to Family Dollar, Dollar General, grab your broom because you're gonna need it for some of these teams out here. You're definitely gonna need it for OKC. You're definitely gonna need it for Indiana. That's for sure. Get a dustpan too, a pretty big one, so you can get all the teams in there at one time without having to do double work.
yeah. Family Dollar, Dollar General. All right, let's
Yeah, get you a broom with a big, big, big old dustpan.
let's
So
get one
get
of the metal ones if you can find the old metal ones that can hold up.
one of
Don't get
them,
them
one of
the
them
plastic
old
ones.
metal ones that, right? You just stuck it on top of the broom where they had the big hole in the middle of it. You know the one I'm talking about. Yeah, get you one of them. That way you can sweep all of them up at the same time.
Yeah, that
Get them out the trash.
yeah, that's the tone setter. There, we're gonna know what time it is with some of these game threes. What these teams looking like. And speaking about a game three, the Celtics and the Sixers, man, they're on tap for tonight. That's a game that'll be on at one of our primetime affairs, I guess. You look at what the Celtics have done; they've been playing really well, man. Philadelphia, not so much because you look at it, you can say, well, Ben Simmons is there, but even if Ben Simmons was there, these games would be a lot more competitive. But Boston's just a better coach team. And we have, and I like to give a shout out right now to the chat, to Lee Wood, Joe Gidry, Brian Pearson says, what do you think about Philadelphia 76ers? Do you think they can come back in this series? And I would say that no, they don't have the ability to come back in the series. Boston will not give them a lane to get back in this series. I think that when Boston wins game three, you can, like Mozzie said, they need to go get one of the big metal
Metal one.
dustpans and
Yeah.
get you a broom and sweep all of them in there and throw them out because that's what's going to happen. Joel Embiid looked better in the second game, but a lot of the pressure's on Brett Brown. And yeah, I think that, the talk is he's probably going to get fired and they're going to try to see if they can find another coach to lead this Sixer
Which
team.
I think that that's kind of counterproductive for them. I don't necessarily blame the coach as much as I do the GM. You get a guy and you don't try to develop his shot anyway. Then you get a big and an Embiid, and the reason that'll never work is because you got two guys that has to be in the lane to score. Embiid obviously doesn't have a shot. He plays real big, but I mean, this league just simply can't sustain a team that just has a big as your guy, and like he has to be the main contributor. This is a fast paced 3 point shot, uh, run and gun type of NBA. This is not you. It's not our NBA. This is not your grandpa NBA. This is a different type of NBA. It's a different time. So you get Ben Simmons in, and what you essentially have is a big, gigantic Westbrook. You got a guy who doesn't have that good of a shot and loves to take it into the cup and loves to finish off at the rim. Unfortunately, you got another max out contract guy that does the same exact thing. So where's the diversity? And then you pick up a couple other guys in free agency that play the exact same game. I just don't see a scenario where this happens. But you can't blame this on the coach because it's the GM that's making all the selections and the picks.
Yeah, they've really struggled, man, in this affair. Tobias Harris, even though he scored, 19 and a half points during the season, he's been an absolute no-show in these games. And you would consider a guy that scores almost 20 points a contest that you think he would show up in the playoffs to kind of at least bring some more scoring ability and some leadership to this team. And that's what they put Harris here. He has not done that. He's been a no-show, a disappointment in the playoffs as the Celtics will be able to just do whatever they want. Good to see Tro Blewett. What up, Tro? Big up to you. Thank you for joining us here on TSC Unleashed. And Brian and John Thompson as well. Brandon Dodd Davis. What up, Brandon? Good to see the family members chiming in on this TSC Unleashed and showing us some support this stream. And Brian asks us another question. He said, do you think the coach of the Sixers gets fired after the series? Mozzie, what do you think about that?
Well, again, that's going back into what we've already talked about previously. Um, I don't really know how to put this to be politically correct. Um, yeah, I think that they gotta. I think they're gonna definitely have to get somebody that's gonna have more of a combination than 20 points. Obviously, what do you think? Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do you think would best suit some of the teams that are struggling, like the Philadelphia 76ers and the Indiana Pacers and a couple and OKC? What do you think? What moves need to be made? Because I think they've done a really good job this year making it as diverse as possible as it pertains to the NBA, where it's not just one-sided, lopsided situation. You have a bunch of good teams and you have a bunch of bums. This is probably the best I've seen thus far. But I mean, what do you think going forward they're going to have to do to kind of regulate and space out the floor as far as talent? Because I mean, like for instance, and I know this sounds crazy, but maybe if you merge like the Knicks with the Sixers, you'll get a really good team because you got a bunch of you got a bunch of guards. Let's pair that with a bunch of bigs that are really playing out of place, and we can name them like a new team. We could just find like a city between Philly and New York. That's where they come to, and we could just make a whole new team. Because that's the only thing I could honestly see out of either of the trash that's left. They're gonna have to figure something out.
I
And
think
I'm not one for super teams, but we got to kind of figure something out because the talent is really kind of like concentrated into just like 5 or 6 teams across the NBA.
Well, Brian, first of all, thanks for the question, my man. And I'm gonna be honest with you about Philadelphia. This team won 43 games.
Mm-hmm.
43
In the East,
games
in the East.
in the East now, but that's still good because if you look at a team like Boston, they won 48. This team won 43 with Brett Brown's leadership there. So that's not exactly a bad deal right there. Now you can, of course, attribute a lot of that to the injuries as occurs. Simmons is not there, and of course the breakup in the season. So I mean, there's two ways you can look at it. You can be patient and work with Brown and see if they can kind of get Simmons back and perhaps get somebody behind him that can reinforce him if something happens. But me, for certain, I think a lot of people wants to move Brown out, and because of the fact that you have so many really good coaches that'll be available, who are a little bit more respectable or that's a little bit more respected or well known that can come there. Like say, for instance, if you get a guy like Mark Jackson who can come in and work with a guy like Ben Simmons, teach him how to, he already knows how to facilitate, but kind of get the correct system. It's no reason why Philly shouldn't be able to have a split series or be competitive against Boston. I mean, to keep it real with you, Tobias Harris averages 19 and a half a game. He's been missing in the series, and of course, you would have to step up your production to be able to offset what Simmons is bringing, and that's what he was bringing here for. So it's tough, man, because their Boston Celtics don't have Hayward either. So it should be some shift in here where you have a guy like Embiid down in the post here battling, and they will have to double him. Those guys have to hit shots and they have to play better. But we'll see exactly where the heart and mind of Philadelphia is right here. If they get swept out of here, if the Philadelphia 76ers get swept in the first round and they don't even take a game from Boston, I would say that yes, they're going to fire the coach. They're going to fire Brett Brown. They're going to get rid of him because there should be no chance why the Philadelphia 76ers, without Simmons, are not as talented as they are, getting swept by the Boston Celtics. And that's what it appears like it's heading in that direction. Like they can't do anything to stop this team. So I would have to agree to you. Then Brian, also, before we move on to our next matchup here, Brian says, what do you think? He says, who do you think we get to Philadelphia 76ers, the next level to win the championship for this team? What are your, he says, what are your high expectations on the 76ers? I think the 76ers is one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the East. I'm going to keep it real with you. They have a lot of Simmons is a great player. Embiid is awesome. Tobias Harris is a good complement piece, despite the fact that he's not really doing what he's supposed to do in Philly. Then you look at guys like, who else is there? Al Horford. Isn't Al still up there doing what he's doing? And I forget because Al is not, he hasn't been a factor in these series either. So I mean,
No, because he plays the same position as Embiid and Simmons.
but see,
Everybody plays above the rim hustle basketball.
but that's the thing though. But Al Horford can get away. He played the 5 for many years. He played the 5 in many years for the Boston Celtics. But the deal is with Al Horford is he could play the 4. He could play the 4, and really the way the lineup was set was the idea was you have Simmons at 1. You have whoever you have at 2, which, they cycle these guys depending on whoever they had at 2. Then at 3 would be Tobias Harris. At 4 would be Al Horford. At 5 would be Joel Embiid. That's not bad. That's a pretty good Jay Richardson, who's at 2. And that's a pretty damn good lineup if you think about it, because Tobias Harris averaged 19 and a half a game while doing that. The problem with them is, where the production off the bench. They need help off the bench as well, and they got guys like Alec Burks and Matisse Thybulle and the rest of these guys. But Shake Milton, he was all right, but they need somebody off the bench that can help. They need a good bench row, a solid 5 off the bench to reinforce what a guy like Ben Simmons is. Losing him was catastrophic. And Tobias Harris, and I can either say Al Horford. Horford hasn't looked good in the playoffs either. But the Sixers are a top 3, top 4 team. If they get swept, man, you definitely got to look at the fact that Brett Brown can end up losing his job despite his 43 wins. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's the pressures of being a coach with a team with winning expectations. They're not going to just keep you there. You can lose 13 games in a row and they'll keep you. You can end up getting toward the end of the season. You can end up getting to the end of the season and then wonder why, they fired you. They didn't tell you fired you. And obviously I'm kind of preferencing sarcastically the Pelican situation, where you can have a losing ass coach who can lose 13 games in a row, and then at the end of the season they ask and did not make the playoffs, despite the fact that you had all your players healthy except for Zion Williamson, which you're a deep team. You should still supposed to win. But he wonders why he didn't keep his job. Are you kidding me? See, that kind of ridiculous, dysfunctional mentality, Philadelphia doesn't have it. They expect that team to compete with Milwaukee. They expect them to compete with the Brooklyn Nets when they have all their pieces with Irvin and Durant there. They expect these guys to compete on a higher level. They're not a joke of a franchise whose coach is wondering why he got fired because he didn't make the playoffs and he had a franchise high 13-game losing streak. They won't play games with you. They expect better from their people. So if they get swept, I would definitely say Brown. It's hard to justify Brown being there, especially if you're a Philadelphia guy. You know how Philadelphia fans are. They are super raw. They are super intense on their teams, whether it's the Phillies, whether it's the Sixers, whether it's the Eagles. Y'all know. Philly people are unbearable when their teams stank up the joint. Now, you listen to Philly talk radio if the Sixers get swept and see what time it is. You're going to hear all of them yelling for Brett Brown's job. You know it and I know it. So Brian says, who do you think about my next question about New Orleans Pelicans? Their next coach there that can come in and here and work with this team. I mean, there are several candidates. I like Kenny Atkinson, to be honest with you. I like him a lot. I think he's smart. I think he's schematic. I think he's a disciplinarian. And you can get a big name like Mark Jackson, which is my favorite. I don't know if that's going to happen. I like Mark
Mike
Jackson.
Brown, Ty Lue.
Those are my least favorites, but I do like Mark Jackson. I do like Kenny Atkinson. I like Sam Cassell. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do like a guy like Sam Cassell as well. I like guys, coaches like that. Becky Hammonds is an interesting guy, a lady in the race too. She's underneath Popovich and his system. And I like those. I like those type of candidates. Even Jason Kidd, which I don't think we get Jason Kidd. I think the Lakers block any moves from anybody looking at getting Jason Kidd. And the only reason why Jason Kidd isn't the coach in LA is because of the scandal that occurred in Milwaukee, dealing with his wife and and all that kind of stuff. And they had to sneak him in the back way until people forget about that, and then move him up into the coaching. Vogel knows he's a placeholder. We all know that. It's Jason Kidd's team in the future. We all know that. So guys like him, I really like a lot. So we'll see how it all shakes out in the end. But Kenny Atkinson, Sam Cassell, guys like that, you can shoot for the fence with a Mark Jackson, or you can get a guy like Atkinson who could come in and be like Snyder of Utah. Wouldn't it be cool to have a Quinn Snyder coaching your basketball team? You know what I'm saying? Or what about a Malone? That coaches Denver. People don't talk about these guys, but these are really good coaches. Malone in Denver, Quinn Snyder in Utah. These guys, these are solid basketball coaches with high IQs. And no, they're not guys that names blow you away because they're not supposed to. But they know what
Right.
they're doing, and Atkinson is one of those guys as well. So I would really be happy to get any one of those guys. Tyrone Lue and Mozzi, like with Mike Brown, those guys, to me, they're on the bottom of my favorites. I know they're on top of his. But that's just what my thought is. You want to answer Brian's question before we get into the final preview, Mozzie?
Well, this is the thing. It's 2020, and that's what I keep telling you. Nobody wants to hear all of these diamonds in the rough that you keep putting out here and
What
try
are
to
you talking
propaganda.
about? What you
Bro,
talking
like we've been
about?
going over this for dozens of years, bro. Nobody wants these great value coaches, bro.
Great
We
value,
want, yes, great value. We want name brand people, right? I don't go to Foot
Mozzie.
Locker to buy
Mozzie,
like Diodora. I'm not
Mozzie,
doing that. Like I'm going to
Mozzie?
Foot Locker to
You
get the
tell
Jordans and
Mozzie, you
Nikes.
telling me when you go to the grocery store, you don't buy great value?
That's something different. I'm spending my
Okay, all
money,
right,
so
okay,
yeah.
okay, okay, okay. Go ahead, go ahead now. Whatever you're saying, just go ahead and finish. That's you
But
already. Go
no,
ahead.
no. First of all, I got kids and they don't understand or appreciate name brand stuff, right? So I get the great value stuff for them. I don't get the great value stuff for me. But with you and Black Benson and all of these, y'all always want these old off-brand great value people to
So
come in, whether it's players or coaches.
Mike Brown's not great value.
No, Mike Brown is not great value. No, he coached LeBron. You can anytime you coach. First off, if you've coached the Lakers and you've coached a superstar, that makes you non-great value. You automatically cross over into name brand. Period. So like all of these other people you name, like the chick from San Antonio, nobody wants all that. Who wants all of that? I want like a
Be-
name brand coach.
Becky
Give
Hammonds is
me,
an excellent coach, man.
but is she name brand is the question.
She's worked with Popovich. Is
Exactly.
Popovich name brand?
But Popovich is name brand, but she worked with Popovich. You see what I'm saying? So like that's the assistant pimp. I want the real.
Coach
I don't
Bud,
want.
but Coach
Huh?
Bud, who was the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, it comes from the Popovich tree. He's the one that turned the Milwaukee Bucks. He took them from kid and turned them
Huh?
into a perennial team. They're the top team in the East. They are, a
That
team
that
that a
has
lot.
something. That's Antetokounmpo, man. That has nothing to do with. Come on now, you know what that is. You know what that is. That's all I'm saying. Like it would be a travesty to once again get role player, like you're a good guy, you put in your due diligence in it. I don't want that. I want an Instagram type of coach, like a Twitter coach, you know.
A
I
Twitter
want somebody
coach.
that's gonna, yes, right. I want somebody that's gonna put asses in the seats. A name. I don't want nobody I gotta go, like, you say like the people you name, I gotta always ask who, and I do this. So just imagine how the fam is getting punished when you name all these all brand people. Some of the people you name, I actually have to go in and like look them up and try to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
But
who are
Kenny,
these? I
but
gotta go to
Kenny,
like the
but
Wikipedia.
Kenny
Like,
Atkinson coached
no.
Kevin Durant, man.
Yes, I get him. He
So
did.
according to
He
that
did coach.
definition, he can't be listed as great value.
Yes and no. See, Mike
What
Brown
about
had eight
Irvin?
seasons. Listen, Mike Brown had 8 seasons as an NBA coach with only one losing season. You see what I'm
How
saying?
much
So
is
when I
that?
look
This
at that,
LeBron.
how much of that is LeBron?
Yes.
I mean, obviously not much because he's a
Oh,
what 3-6 in the finals. So I mean, you know what
did
I'm
he have
saying? Not to
LeBron
say,
during those years?
did he help LeBron? Of course, his
Okay.
prowess and his toughness as a coach
When Tyronn Lue won a
helped.
championship at Cleveland, did he have LeBron?
He did, but he won a championship. I cannot discount a coach that won a championship
You would have
for a
coached that
great
team and won
value
a
coach.
champion.
I got to go with Ty Lue. I don't have a choice but to go with Ty Lue because Ty Lue not only coached LeBron, but he brought a championship to Cleveland, something that hadn't been done in like 100 years. You can't discount that. Even with the Brad Daugherty I mean, when you look at the great Cleveland teams that gave Michael Jordan a run for their money, right? These teams were good. When you look at Brad Daugherty and you look at what's his face, Larry Nance, and all of these guys, man, they were incredible. So I gotta go with somebody that brought a title, a winning culture back to a losing organization, and that's what he did. We are technically the losing organization, are we not? Ty Lue has the experience of bringing championship winning basketball to perennially losing organizations such as us. So if I'm picking somebody, I'm picking Ty Lue because I've seen his work and I've seen what he could do. And just like Ty Lue had LeBron, we not only have Zion, which is our version of LeBron, we got a really good supporting cast and arguably a top 5 player in the entire NBA in Ingram moving forward here in the next 2 to 3 seasons. I can honestly see Ingram being in that 1, 2, 3 conversation, especially with LeBron backing out the league here in the next 3 to 5 years. KD be on the back end of his career. So I can definitely see Bi stepping into that gap. So you gotta get a coach that can handle that. And I've seen Ty Lue handle that. Now all these other great value people you talking about, and you know what? These people not even great value. I'm gonna take it back even further. They Little John. Remember like the Saints used. I mean, Saints. They must be talking about me. Swagman. You go to Swagman Grocery, and they had their great value, which was Little John back then. That's what they are. They're the Little John coaches that you trying to put out there. The wall coaches like Wall Tussin and all of this stuff. We don't need that. Get these people out of here, man. Get some name brand blood in here.
Well, I mean, if they can reach for the stars and grab a guy like, I would say everybody's favorite is Mark Jackson because of his contributions, what he did to build the floor for Golden State to go on to win dynasties with Kerr at the helm. If we can get a guy like that to come in and teach young uh, Zoe Ball how to play the point guard position because he played it for 18 plus years in the NBA. He has the great verbalization of the game where he can speak it to the point where he's a really good commentator to kind of speak the game to novice followers, and they follow it on just pretty good. And of course, a lot of people said that he has issues personality wise. Well, he's a strong personality. If it's his boat, he's going to run it the way he is. And I don't know. I don't know if that'll clash with a guy, a control freak or a hands-on guy like David Griffin, who speaks over the top of his general manager. And we didn't even know he had a general manager until we seen him. I don't even know if the guy could speak. So I mean, he might. I don't even know if he has a voice. I haven't heard him say anything except for one press conference that he's done since he's taken the job. So it's interesting, man. So Mark Jackson is my pick. I don't consider him great value. I think he's a good coach. And for Kenny Atkinson or Becky Hammonds, you might not know these people, but sometimes you got to give people an opportunity because relatively to speak about guys that are great value as they term them, everybody started out great value. The majority of the coaches didn't have the names until they started proving themselves in the NBA. So, I mean, some of these guys came through the NBA. They gained a reputation as being a good coach because they know what they're doing. The ultimate great value coach is the one you constantly give respect to in Miami, Eric Spoelstra. This guy he started off as the
No, sir.
videotape coordinator in that organization. So you can't get no more great value than that or Little John than that. So I mean, at the end of the day, man, we just have to get the best and the most qualified candidates. That's my pick. That's Mozzie. Me and obviously Mozzie is not going to agree on that because it's just what it is. Let's move into the next discussion and the final preview of the night. Tonight, 8 o'clock, another primetime matchup, including the Clippers going against the Dallas Mavericks. Season series split at 1. Man, this is going to be a really good game. Dallas Mavericks, really, if Dallas, and I'm going to say this again, had Dallas, Kristaps Porzingis, the unicorn, not got thrown out in the first game, they beat the Clippers. And they know that, we know that, and the Clippers know that. The Clippers were able to get that first win, steal it out of there. Dallas then came back in and was able to make it happen. Third game, who takes the advantage right here at 5?
Gotta go Clippers. I gotta go. I gotta go Clippers.
You're going to go with the Clippers?
I don't have a choice.
Sure you do.
How gotta put it? Well, no, I gotta go to Clippers for this game because I think, just being honest, Dallas should be 2-0 right now. So I gotta give the Clippers. The Clippers haven't played well either game. So I'm thinking that this is going to be the Clippers one game where they actually step up and actually and play to their full potential. Because we look at game 1 and game 2. Game 1, Dallas beat themselves. Game 2, Dallas beat the Clippers. So Dallas has been playing really, really good the last 2 games. So from a statistic standpoint, I got to look for them to have it all game. They haven't had it all game. Now, Luka did come out flat game 1, but his game was not off. His game was superb after that first 3 to 5 minute stretch, right? We look at the team as a whole. The team as a whole had a really good first game. When the ejection happened, I think everybody's morale kind of bumped down one, but that doesn't take away from the game that they had. They had a really good game too. So, and on the contrary, the Clippers have not had really good games. They played average, a little bit better than average, but they surely haven't played up to their potential. So and I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout out of the way, but I'm looking for a really hard fought close game 3. Game 3 is a pivotal. Both teams are trying to play for whatever you would call home court advantage, but they're both trying to play up for that 2-win cushion. It's a lot easier to win 2 games than it is to win 3. So with that being said, I gotta look for the Clippers to come out and leave it all on the floor tonight. And if I just don't, I think Dallas is kind of young for what the Clippers will bring. I think they'll make adjustments going forward into games 4, 5, and potentially 6. I'm thinking that this goes 6 games, 4-2 Dallas. But I think that second game is won by the Clippers tonight.
Well, that's going to look interesting. I'm going to definitely take Dallas in the matchup. I think Dallas knows that they playing on another level. I think Luka Doncic is awesome. And I know they could try to throw Pat Beverly at Luka Doncic to try to slow him down. That's not going to help because he's not exclusively just a scorer. He knows how to get guys together. If Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic is on, watch out for guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. Like I said before, them damn juniors. They are something else. Watch out for Tim Hardaway Jr. in the matchup again. And then other guys off the bench like Seth Curry. Those guys will come alive in this matchup. I just like how Rick Carlisle, he has, and that's another one of these great value coaches that we talked about that didn't have a name until they established themselves in the NBA, like Eric Spoelstra and Rick Carlisle. These guys came alive. So he has a really good team, and this team is like one of the best teams that he's had since when he had Dirk there when they won the championship. This is a very good team. I think people are sleeping on this Dallas Maverick club. They can play defense well, and they can shoot really well from the downtown. So they're disciplined. The Clippers, they're going to have to bring it. Can Paul George have another big game and Leonard as well to help out against him? That's a good. The Clippers aren't a bad pick. I just think Dallas can win game 3.
Well, you got to realize PG-13, I think he lived up to the name. What he had, 13 points or less?
I don't think that's what they meant by that, but yeah, okay.
But I'm just saying, so you really expect him to have another game like that? Do you really expect the Clippers to play a third all game?
Yeah, but don't. But they played really well in game 1 and barely won, and they won that game because Kristaps Porzingis wasn't in that game. You and I both know, and you said that if Kristaps Porzingis played the rest of game 1, they would have beat the Clippers, despite the fact that Leonard and Paul George were having good outings. It takes what I'm saying is it's going to take more than Leonard, and if Leonard and George they score 40 something odd points.
Oh yeah,
Together
no doubt, no doubt.
that's not enough to beat this
No, it's
Dallas
not.
club.
It's not.
They're gonna need help, is what I'm saying.
It's not. Yeah, yeah. They're gonna need. It's not so much offensive output, and I think that's what they have to. I think that's what they have to really work on. When you have Kawhi, who's automatically has to be load managed because of arthritic knee, you have PG-13. The whole squad itself, they've only played what 16, 17, 18 games together as a unit. So in saying that, you have to look at the fact that the longer they play, the more they're going to adapt to each other's playing styles, and the better they're going to get. But if you want these two superstars to found that kind of energy on the offensive side of the ball, that means everybody else got to kind of pin their ears back on defense and then go for what they know. The issue is when you have PG checking Luca, then you check out of that, you switch up from that and have Kawhi checking Luca, and then I mean, it's just too much. And then you have Pat Bev come down, he'll check Luka. It's just too much. I think that if you're gonna have Kawhi, you have PG-13. They got to focus strictly on the offensive side of the ball. That's the key to beating this team. Because if you ask one of your two top tier players to exert all this energy chasing Luca around the floor, Luca's the poor man's Ginobili at this point. He's the new Ginobili. So and it's the same thing that he used to do when he was at San Antonio. He'd come out off the bench, and what he do is your best guard at the time would have to kind of chase him around the court, and then he'd chase your guy around the court. He's coming off the bench. So you're coming at your guy from fresh legs versus non-fresh legs, and then he's going to just chase you around and make you chase him around. Same thing Luka does. But I mean, I think the moment they kind of figured it out and somebody steps up defensively on Luka, not more success out of that.
All right, Mozzie.
Hello.
Oh yeah, Mozzie, you kind of faded out, bro. Finish the last line. What you were saying?
Oh, no. I think that once they figure out who's gonna step up on defense to kind of not so much stop Luca, but contain him. Let's say maybe hold him to 30 points or 25 points or less. That same number that I tell you you got to hold D Lil to. Once you hold him to that 25 or less threshold, I think that you'll be a lot better suited to beat this team.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Because I'm thinking Dallas, man. A lot of people are looking at Dallas and they're thinking, man, that you know that they can't win
I
this
tell you what,
series. I think Dallas
you're a
is
gambling man. I love shrimp sandwiches. I love shrimp on French. So I mean, I'm more than willing to put one of those up on the line if you want to do so. No lettuce, no tomatoes, of course. And I think we could definitely do that.
okay. So you putting a sandwich up on tonight's
I
matchup.
want to put
Is
a
that what
shrimp.
you're
We
saying?
put a shrimp sandwich up on it. Yeah, shrimp
Okay.
sandwich up. I got the clip.
Okay.
Huh?
Is that from Keats?
It could be from anywhere. It could
Okay.
really be from anywhere. But like
Okay.
we just we gonna definitely.
Where your favorite shrimp place that you like to get shrimp po' boys from?
I actually like this place called Eat Well. It's not too far from my store here on Broad Street. It's on Broad Canal. They got excellent shrimp over there.
Okay.
By the way.
I accept your challenge
Okay.
of a shrimp po' boy.
Okay.
Can we throw some fries in there?
Absolutely. Seasoned or regular. Seasoned or white.
Okay.
Whichever one you prefer.
Okay. We're gonna get some seasoned fries with that shrimp po' boy there,
And a big shot, just to top it all off.
and a pineapple big shot.
Pineapple big shot. Gotta be only that's the only thing you can have with a shrimp sandwich, a pineapple big shot.
Okay,
I'm sure the
okay.
fam knows that.
You got your deal. You got your deal. The
So
entire
let's lock that in.
you
All right,
got
we're gonna lock that in.
that's locked in. That we okay.
That's
You heard
locked
it.
in.
You heard it. Dallas. We got here. We got Mozzie has the Clippers tonight. I have Dallas. Mozzie proposed the shrimp sandwich with the fries and the pineapple big shot. It's a
That's
done
right.
data, and we'll go from there. So I appreciate the sandwich, Mozzie.
The
Thank you, sir.
donation.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. We'll be
All
looking
right.
to you. We'll be talking about that. And next time we pop on for tomorrow, y'all have me. Y'all, the guys, will be hearing me licking my fingers eating that sandwich. Thank you, Mozzie. All right, let's move forward into the to the next discussion here. Our final discussion on the show is the training camp buzz happening around the NFL. And there are rumblings from the NFL dealing with the Raiders and defensive end Yannick Ngakoue. A lot of people saying, "Oh man, they wouldn't have moved him." Early on, remember that Ngakoue, they were given a trade scenario where a unmentioned team offered the Jacksonville Jaguars a first round draft pick and a starter for Ngakoue. Jacksonville turned it down. And why would you hold on to a disgruntled player is behind me? But that's why Jacksonville is almost like a college football team, in my opinion. They're just a floundering bunch of boobs. But let's go into this scenario right here. This is another day of training underneath here. This is from NFL Network. Yannick Ngakoue is still a Jacksonville Jaguar defensive end, and still nothing imminent on the trade front. Ian Rappaport reported, however, that some teams have been interested in him, including the Raiders, who have discussions prior to the draft, but have kept up interest in asking about Ngakoue. Now, Rappaport reported Friday, nonetheless, it remains a tricky wicket. Drew the Jaguars are open to trading him. If they're looking for a suitor, it's something else. Now, he could take north of $17 million on the salary cap and be a part with enough draft picks as a huge hurdle. Rappaport added it as a training camp practices burn through another day, and Ngakwe's future remains unclear one. So it's just a scrimmage and that first one at that, but there's excellent emanating from Cincinnati. A lot of people talking about how Joey Burrow is playing in this matchup as well, and that's a whole nother discussion. But when you go back to Ngakoue, who a lot of guys were like, the Saints go after Ngakoue. I'm like, nah, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They can't even go after Everson Griffin for $6 million. So, I mean, I know Ngakoue is totally out of their ram of thought. But in your opinion, Maz, you followed the Raiders. You know about Ngakoue. Do you think that the Jacksonville Jaguars will ultimately trade this guy before the season starts, or this is just smoke and mirrors?
I mean, I think Jacksonville is committing suicide at this point. I think they're trying to blow it up, get off all of those contracts, and kind of get everybody out of there. And this is really a shame too, because they're only 2 years off an AFC Championship appearance. So I don't know. I don't necessarily know why they're committing this kind of suicide, and they're cutting their own head off. But I mean, hey, they've already moved a couple pieces. We'll probably see the removal of Fournette here moving forward after the end of this season. So, I mean, we've seen it from them, the last really all off season. So, I mean, and last year was a blow up. I mean, we had Mr. Minshew step in, and I mean that whole situation down there in Jacksonville, I wouldn't want any part of it. And that's just kind of where we stand at right now. So it remains to be seen, but it's not out the realm of culpability. And if it happened, I wouldn't be nearby shocked by it, especially given that the Raiders have a fair amount of money to spend. They go into a new market. I mean, it's kind of all written on the wall. I think the Raiders are trying to build their team for dominance within the next 2-3 years in Gruden fashion. I think if they add those pieces, maybe change the quarterback up, maybe not add a piece or two here, a piece or two there. I think they'll be able to make a run. Although they do have that three-headed dragon in their division known as Kansas City, but I still think that they'll make they'll be in position at least to make us a decent run, and that's what they're trying to build for. They're trying to build their team to be able to compete with those 4-2, 4-3, 4-4 guys that Kansas City has in that division.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I don't think Jaguars pull a hammer on it. They had a better trade. Perhaps they just get fed up with enough and just trade Ngakoue. They had all summer to get this guy out of there and find pieces early on. They've totally botched this whole situation. They could have really got a serious piece to help them win. And you're right. They're destructing the team. They're breaking them down. They're not going to pay Leonard Fournette. Ngakoue has been disgruntled, and they really were supposed to pay him because he's been highly productive. They should have paid him, but now they're just what they are. They're a joke of an organization, and sooner or later they'll become the San Antonio Jaguars. So anyway, that'll do it for the rest of the show. I appreciate all the family for chiming in on this episode of TSC Unleashed. If you enjoy Unleashed, please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe if you aren't a subscriber, and share the show's links on your social media feed. By all means, it's a help pick it up on Unleashed, as we cover not only NBA playoff news and NFL news outside of the Saints, we also talk about boxing and other topics as well. So we appreciate you guys for being a part of Unleashed today. Programming note for the rest of the family members: the Sports Coma will be coming on tonight at 5:30 on this channel. So just to let you guys know, please look out for the notification bell and as well, and join us tonight at 5:30 as we cover day number 4 of Saints camp. We'll have several interviews to play. We'll go over and break down observations from camp, chat questions. We might open up the phone lines as well. So I appreciate you guys for joining us on TSC Unleashed. I'll see you later on the Sports Coma. It would be Q and the guys. So for me and Mozzie, thank y'all for joining us. Peace.